Jordan Sekulow, Executive Director, American Center for Law and Justice, and, by the way, an attorney in his own right, and also his new book, The New Red Wave, How Conservatives Can Beat Leftist Aggression, Rhino Betrayal, and Deep State Subversion. Gregg Jarrett, Fox News, legal analyst, author of the latest bestseller, Witch Hunt, the story of the greatest mass delusion in American political history, which we now see continues. All right, so this is what you must do to be a Democrat. Only care about foreign election interference with Russia, but ignore the dossier. Only care about election interference if it involves Trump, but not Ukraine helping Hillary Clinton. Jordan Sekulow.
I think this is gets to the heart of this. The fact that Adam Schiff is not even considering allowing witnesses to testify about Ukraine's involvement in the 2016 election, even putting aside Hunter Biden and that corruption, but just that DNC staffer who went to the Ukrainians to get dirt on President Trump, as was reported, not in conservative outlets, but by Politico and a long piece, and people kind of ignored this. And Washington Post, after the election, they actually wrote a piece in the Washington Post saying how Ukraine was having to rework their relationship with the Trump administration because of the work that they did to hurt President Trump. So, I mean, these were in very mainstream publications, and yet they want to ignore that completely. But it gets even worse, Sean. I mean, the fact is, we are way less than 24 hours from these first so-called public hearings beginning. And three witnesses that absolutely should be given the green light by Adam Schiff that Republicans requested, because Adam Schiff had already called these three. You know, when we talk about Volker, when we talk about Hale and Morrison, they've already testified behind closed doors, and they were Democrats' witnesses. And yet still at this moment in time, we haven't gotten an okay from Adam Schiff that even those three requests by Republicans will be able to testify to the and show themselves to the American people.
Gregg Jarrett, you have a great column out today. I know it was trending #1 on FoxNews.com earlier. I don't know if it is now. I haven't looked, but the clown show known as the impeachment inquiry is getting more comical and hapless by the day.
Yes, because Adam Schiff is the one who said he doesn't want Republicans turning the impeachment proceedings into a sham. Well, Schiff has already managed to do that all on his own. Remember, this is the guy who insisted that he was going to call the whistleblower who triggered the impeachment farce. Then suddenly he changed his mind. Well, what happened? In the interim, evidence emerged that Schiff and his staff colluded with the whistleblower before the complaint was ever filed, and then Schiff lied about it, which earned him 4 Pinocchios. So this is the chairman trying to conceal his own role in engineering the pretext for impeachment and, of course, his subsequent lie. And this is why he's insisting that the whistleblower remain anonymous, even though if you look at the law, it says there is no right, no guarantee, no privilege, no entitlement to anonymity, period. And furthermore, this whistleblower isn't even a whistleblower. The Department of Justice looked at the complaint, issued an 11-page decision that said, sorry, this guy ain't a whistleblower. He doesn't qualify.
Amazing developments here. But, look, it's obvious what's going to happen. I mean, the media is going to be like, oh, shock, feign outrage, feign shock, feign outrage, feign. And again, it's like, okay, you ignore the dirty Russian dossier Hillary paid for. You only care about that if it's Trump. It's breathtaking hypocrisy. I believe, but only if I can bludgeon Trump. We're going to ignore the serious allegations of rape and sexual assault against the lieutenant governor of Virginia. We're not going to care about Ukrainian election interference because, that was designed to help Hillary. And we had a real DNC operative meeting with Ukrainians colluding for the purpose of foreign interference, Jordan. I mean, it is breathtaking hypocrisy on every level.
But as you said, Sean, I think it's why it's so important today as we're talking about this and people are listening to this. And when they talk to their friends and family, they're going to be, the country is going to be inundated tomorrow. Now, they may kind of ignore it to the point that they can, but when every broadcast channel goes to it, every radio station, every cable news network is covering it from end to end, the narrative will be, I think still at the end of the day, kind of who you take your news from, right? I mean, but if you're taking it from folks who aren't that engaged, and that's the group that is, again, the people who they vote in presidential elections. They don't usually vote in other elections. They might vote in presidential elections, a better way to say it. That's the group Democrats are going for, right? I mean, the group that is kind of uneducated about this topic. I'm not saying they're uneducated, but they're not that into the weeds on this. And so whatever looks the most serious, they're kind of going to go with. And if the Democrats can make this not look like a phony kind of sham, and the Republicans aren't able to really counter, or Adam Schiff kind of shuts down the counter, then I think that's why what we all do is so important, because we're going to have to point it out piece by piece for folks, and we've got a lot of time to do that. But the Democrats really do believe, and they have not pushed back on the narrative, Sean, when they told the media that in the first hour they've got to hit their home run. And what that means is not convincing you, me, or Greg that the president should be removed. It's not even convincing the American people that the president should be actually convicted and impeached. It's convincing enough Americans not to go and vote in November 3rd of 2020, or people who may not have usually voted, who did vote for Trump the first time, to not vote for him a second time. So it's that kind of, I think, political thinking that we're up against. And Adam Schiff, most of that time will be Adam Schiff and Devin Nunes. So they think that what is Adam Schiff going to try tomorrow that's going to be some home run. Now, so far, he's failed at those. But remember, if you weren't informed and you heard Adam Schiff's fake conversation that he made up between the president of Ukraine and our president, you would be maybe a lot more persuaded, at least a little more confused about what was right and wrong. And so, again, I say look at who they're playing to, who their audience is, and that's what we have to fight back against.
Quick break, more with Jordan Sekulow, Gregg Jarrett on the other side. All right, as we continue, Jordan Sekulow, Executive Director for the American Center for Law and Justice. His book, by the way, The Next Red Wave, How Conservatives Can Beat Leftist Aggression, Rhino Betrayal, and Deep State Subversion. Gregg Jarrett, his new bestseller is out, Witch Hunt, the story of the greatest mass delusion in American political history. Greg, let me go to you. You know, you brought up, for example, in your column, this issue about Bill Taylor, who was the acting ambassador to Ukraine. Well, it was my understanding, you write. Again, he's another person that has zero firsthand knowledge of anything. And this is the entire scenario is what we think, we believe, we're told, we're guessed. My hypothesis is, but no facts.
Well, you're right, and none of these witnesses that Schiff is calling tomorrow would ever be allowed to testify in a court of law. They're simply offering their opinions, interpretations. They're repeating rumors and innuendo in their diplomatic echo chamber. And Taylor's perfect example. He said, well, it was my understanding there was a quid pro quo. He got it from Gordon Sondland, who got it from Tim Morrison. And where did Sondland get it? Well, he said he presumed there was a quid pro quo. He had no direct knowledge of it. Same thing with George Kent, who will testify tomorrow. His is triple hearsay. He heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy who heard it from Sondland, again, who presumed there was a quid pro quo. None of this would ever be allowed because this is multiple hearsay stacked on top of speculation and conjecture, and that's all Adam Schiff has.
You know, and I guess, yeah, and by the way, Sondland, did they hear from him? Because he said he actually talked to the president, didn't he?
He did, and Sondland said, the president told me in our conversation, I don't want anything. There is no quid pro quo. And Sondland then went on to say, I never thought there was a precondition or quid pro quo. Then later he revised his testimony, say, well, upon reflection, I presumed there was a quid pro quo. Sorry, a judge would turn to the jury and say, disregard this man's testimony. We're striking it from the record. It's yesterday's trash.
All right, Jordan Sekulow, Gregg